Welcome to the NZCTA Young Associates Network Like a Pro event. I'm your MC, Melanie. For those of us both in New Zealand and overseas, tuning in while in lockdown, those of us at the YA hope you're doing well and safe. Thank you for attending with everything that's going on at the moment. A few notes on Zoom etiquette before we get started. Please make sure you're muted at all times unless it's appropriate to unmute during your Q&A session. If you have a question for the speaker, please send it to Sonia privately via the Zoom chat. We encourage you to keep your video on, but no pressure if you'd like to turn it off. And finally, please turn on speaker view. Our guest today will speak for roughly 45 minutes, followed by 10 minutes of audience questions. We'll conclude our event at around 2 p.m. And if you do miss anything, a recording of this session will be made available on YouTube over the next few days, so stay tuned for that. This is our second session in our online series for professional development. The development series is a new series for students and young professionals to develop and learn skills in specific areas. We hope that through the series, you will be able to gain tangible skills that can help your employability, your numerical literacy, as well as be more comfortable in social situations. Over the next month, we'll be hosting several events, so keep an eye out by following our social media platforms, so Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, and WeChat. Our first session of our series went live last Friday, which was the YA Financials Made Easy with Helen He and Martin Ma from PwC, and you can find this on our YouTube. For our session today, the second in our series, we are privileged today to be joined by David Nottage. In the session today, David will cover how to overcome nerves and put your best foot forward in a networking situation. David is the director of Torque Limited, a New Zealand-based company that provides training in improving your confidence when presenting and networking. Additionally, David is also a world champion of public speaking and has been actively involved with presentation skills for over 28 years. And his ambition was to use his knowledge and skills to help people be more confident in their business presentations and communication skills. You'll never be able to tell, but David has overcome many challenges from someone who was too scared to speak in front of a group of 4 people to becoming a dynamic presenter who captivated over 2,000 Toastmasters to win the ultimate pinnacle in public speaking, the World Championship for Toastmasters International. Welcome, David.
Thank you very much, Melanie. Ni hao. And welcome to everyone from the Young Associates. Shall I kick off now, Melanie?
Yes, absolutely. Please take it away.
Terrific. Well done. Welcome and thank you so much for joining in on this networking opportunity to network like a pro. Why is that so important and special, especially given the fact that you're a part of the Young Associates? Well, they estimate that in a standard person's life that we will meet 80,000 people in our lifetime. 80,000. That's an awful lot of people. And every time we do that, we get an opportunity to make first impressions and to create or add to our network. And I think the better we do that and the more often we do that, then that's only going to help us as we move through our career, especially as young professionals. So thank you for joining us. First thing, confidence. Oh, how do we be more confident? A lot of people get extremely anxious and very nervous when they're asked to go to a networking function. Normally you go there, you don't know very many people. Most people walk in, start looking around and think, oh, food. And they go off and go for the food or the drinks, or they meet their colleague from work. Hi, and they spend the rest of their time at the networking function with the one and only person that they already know. So let's build up our confidence. And a couple of clever ways of doing that would be to do some diaphragmatic breathing. Because one of the things that happens when we get nervous is we start breathing high into our chest. And you can see that because people's shoulders, their shoulders go up and their chest comes out. Just watch me. And when we're breathing like that, that's not helping us. So for those of you that are in a position to do what I'm about to ask you to do, because I can't see you, you've strategically left most of your videos off. If you can just be standing up while I'm talking to you for the next minute or two, would be a good thing for you to do. I need you to stand up because I want you to put one hand on your chest and one hand about where your belly button is, right then. And as you're standing there, I'm going to ask you to take 3 long, slow, deep breaths. But instead of breathing high into your chest, which would make this hand come out, I'm going to ask you to pull that breath down so that your tummy pops out. And I don't think you can see my tummy, so I need you to be able to breathe like this. Should I do a profile? Oh, it'll look bad. It'll look bad. Breathe like this. This is the hand we want to move. So if you're standing up, please, 3 deep breaths, nice and slow. Nice and slow. I'm not going to say in and out, but I'll just give you enough time to do 3 deep diaphragmatic breaths. Pull that air down. You've really got to concentrate. The bigger the breath, the better. Out. Well, you don't have to do it. I'll do the out. Let's assume you've done 3 of those. And if you've done 3 big diaphragmatic breaths, something very important's happened. You've just oxygenated your muscle groups in your arms and your legs, plus you've oxygenated your senses. And once you've done that, the body was going to really calm down a lot. But that was pointless, me teaching you that. I'm so sorry for wasting your time. Unless you practice it. If you don't practice it, you're not going to be able to do it. I've been with too many people going to events and they're getting nervous. They're my client. I'm trying to help them. And I say, you're getting a bit nervous. Yes, I'm getting nervous. I said, right, why don't you do some of that diaphragmatic breathing we spoke about? Yes, I'll do the breathing. And they have an asthma attack or something. If you don't practice it, team, you're not going to be able to do it. So the best place to practice, in the shower. I know, weird. The reason why it's a good place to practice your breathing in the shower, there's 3 good reasons. Number 1, you have to be standing up. You can't do this exercise sitting down. Number 2, you're in a confined space. You're not going anywhere. You might as well do something. And the 3rd good reason, you have to breathe anyway. It's not like it's extra work, is it? So every time you shower, do yourself a huge favor. Practice 3 slow, long, diaphragmatic breaths so that when the day comes, you need to calm down, especially before walking into a networking situation, that you can oxygenate your leg muscles, your arm muscles, and your senses. Once you've done that, you will be a lot calmer. Now, the other thing that we physiologically have to do to calm down is to get rid of our energy. I don't know if you've noticed it, but when you get nervous, you'll do a lot of things that we don't want you to do. You're going to start moving around. You start going to have fidgety hands. Your voice is going to change. All of these things is because the core of your body has really tightened. It's called flight and fight. It happens to absolutely everyone, and it's happening to you. But we can't take that energy into the room. You've got to get rid of it. Now, we've all just watched the Olympic Games, and didn't China do well? Well, New Zealand did very well as well, but China did particularly well. But it didn't matter whether we were playing volleyball, doing diving, doing shot put, everyone did the same thing. Prior to their event, they jumped up and down and shook out the nervous energy. And so do we. We need to do that as well. If we don't shake out that nervous energy, it's going to interfere with us once we're in meeting other people. Now, I was talking to Melanie and Sitchin before, and they assured me that everyone in the YA are highly competent and very intelligent, which is excellent. So it almost goes without saying, doesn't it, that when I tell you to do your diaphragmatic breathing and shake out that energy, that you do it before you walk into the room with everyone else, don't you? Don't walk into the room and start doing your breathing and shaking it out in front of everyone else. It's a bit embarrassing. The other thing I'd like you to try and do with your nervousness is to power pose. It's one thing to control the nervousness. It's another thing to give yourself confidence. And some of you may have heard of Amy Cuddy, A-M-Y Cuddy, C-U-D-D-Y. She's rather world famous now for her TED talk on power posing. And I'd like you to, I'd like you to Google Amy and have a look at her TED talk. I think something like 70 million people have already watched it and benefited by it. Let's get onto that bandwagon. What I'm about to give you now is basically what Amy Cuddy will suggest to you in the TED talk. Once again, if you can be standing up, that would help you enormously. It's no good me telling you this stuff without you actually doing it. Now, in a power pose, you're going to expose the three most vulnerable parts of your body. The most vulnerable part of a human body is the throat. So in any power pose, you're going to have your chin up higher than normal. The moment you do it, you're going to want to bring it down. Don't. Keep it up. Right then. Don't worry. You're not doing this in the room with everyone else. We'll talk about that later. You're going to be somewhere by yourself. So it's going to be up. The second part of the human body that's the most vulnerable is your chest. That's why we've got a breastplate to protect all our vital organs. So I need you to promote your chest, stick your chest out. And a clever way of doing that is to put your hands on your hips. So now you've got your chin up and your hands on your hips, and you've got your chest out. Well done, you're doing well. The third most vulnerable part of the human body is our private parts. I know. So that's right, nobody can see you, and you can't even see me. But what I'm wanting you to do is spread your feet wider than you would normally do in a social event. I mean, I've got my feet spread quite wide. I've got my hands on my hips. I've got my chest out and my chin up. And now what we need you to do is hold that for about another 1 minute, because we started this about a minute ago with your chin up. And now that your body is in what we call a power pose, some really strange things are happening chemically inside of you. One of the most powerful drugs that we have for our confidence is testosterone. And the more testosterone you have, the more confident you will be. The other drug that's a big problem for us is the cortisol drug, the drug called cortisol. That's the drug that powers the flight and fight. The more cortisol drug that you have in your body, the messier, the more nervous you're going to be. So what the body is doing now, because you're being either Superman or Superwoman, your body is trying to change the chemical makeup to give you more testosterone and less cortisol. And for about another 15, 20 seconds, just hold that pose. You're doing great. You're doing great. Right then. What the body does is it dissolves your cortisol and rebuilds it or reconstitutes it into testosterone. And it's quite an amazing difference. So now that you've done it for about 2 minutes, thank you very much. You can relax a bit more, have a seat, get back into your chair, and you'll be fine. So what just happened in the human body then? Your subconscious mind realized that because you were in a powerful position, that you must be very confident, must want a lot of testosterone. And so it actually increased your testosterone on average by about 19%. That's a lot of testosterone. Where did your body get an extra 19% testosterone? It broke down the drugs you didn't need. And one of the biggest drugs you did not need if you're going to be Superman or Superwoman is your cortisol. So you dropped 25% of your cortisol. In other words, you became 19% more confident and 25% less nervous. Now here's the bad news. It only lasts for 5 minutes. So this is a very powerful, very quick skill that you can exercise, you can do to power yourself up. If you watch the TED Talk, Amy Cuddy will tell you it doesn't matter whether you're crying with fear. You can be absolutely terrified. Get yourself into a private situation, go to the bathroom, close the door, and get yourself into that power pose situation for just 2 minutes, and it will power you up. clean yourself up, do your breathing, and then walk into that network situation, and you should be fine as far as your confidence is concerned. So before I just move on, recap, you're going to do 2 things to increase your confidence. You're going to practice your diaphragmatic breathing and shaking out the nervous energy so that now you've got the nervousness under control, and you're going to power up for just 2 minutes in a power pose so that you have more testosterone and less cortisol in the system, so that when you walk into that room situation, you can do it with confidence. Brilliant. It makes a difference, do it. So let's say that we've walked into that room. What can we do to make a very good first impression? And I think it doesn't matter what culture we're talking about, it's always going to be the same thing. Eye contact and that smile you've got. Now, the smile. I'm sure you've got a lovely smile. I can't see you. I'd ask you to take a selfie and send it to me. But to be honest, I can't look at it. I'm looking at you right now. So you've got that beautiful smile. Now, here's the trick to it. Well, not the trick. I think it's just a clever thing. When you walk into that room and you see someone, oh, there they are over there. So you're going to see somebody, right? I'm going to suggest you don't always have a smile on your face. I know, weird. Don't walk into the room with a smile and look everywhere you go. Smile. Yeah, I'm smiling. Oh, yes, I'm smiling. Smiling at everyone. Everything. Thank you so much. No, don't have the smile on your face. Have a pleasant look on your face. And then when you make eye contact with someone, and it'll be the person over there, when you make eye contact, then smile. Let them see the smile happening for them. Otherwise, you're just walking around with a smile for everyone. But if you look at someone and then smile at them, they see that smile is for you. It's very, I can almost guarantee you what's going to happen. They will smile back. And if you nod at them, they'll either start walking to you or you'll start walking to them and you'll start engaging in a conversation. So just to recap that one, it's really quite simple. Walk into the room, don't have a smile on your face, make eye contact with someone, let them see that smile come onto your face for them. And then if you nod, go over and you'll start a conversation. So when I say walk into the room without a smile on your face, don't walk into the room looking like death warmed up. Have a pleasant look on your face, just don't be smiling. Don't come into the room looking like this. No. You've got to have a pleasant look on your face. Look like you want to be there. And then when you see someone, you can have that smile appear on your face. Practice that. It's very effective and very instant. When people smile at us and we see them smiling at us, not smiling all the time, then we know that smile's for us. And that's a huge way to start an engagement with another human being. Give it a go and try, please. Another thing, the handshake. It is customary in our culture to handshake, and yet a lot of people don't have a very good handshake. Normally, I'd have somebody here with me to demonstrate said handshake, but they're not because we're in lockdown. So you just have to imagine, how am I going to do this right? Yeah, there you go. It's going to look a bit weird, but let's do it, team. How do you shake hands? Have a think about it. How do you shake hands? Do you have a very strong handshake? Do you have a very weak handshake? What handshake should you have? Well, when we meet people and we look at them and they see a smile, that's a huge start. But the handshake is the part where you can really cement your first impression. If it's a very soft, weak handshake, I'm sorry, it's not going to be very effective. So when people offer you a hand and you grab it and there's just nothing there, it's like just meat with some bones in it and some skin on the top, that's the first impression is very poor. So it's got to be a firm handshake. Now, when we say firm handshake, and maybe you can pop this in the comments for me, has anyone ever had their hand crushed by a Neanderthal? You go in and you shake hands and they absolutely squeeze it. You think, that's not a good thing. So if you are someone who has a very strong handshake, please stop hurting people. The whole idea of networking is to get people to like us. We're not going to like you if you hurt us. So please stop being too strong. For those of us that suffer from getting our hands hurt, I was told, and it's a very clever trick, when you shake hands, you can't see it. Yes, no, you can't see it that way. When we shake hands, if you put your finger out like that, so it's pretty hard to do. I need another hand, and I don't have one. So if I'm shaking hands, I can't demonstrate it. How would it go? The whole idea is that you grasp hands here. This finger here has to go down their palm, and I have no idea how. Not their palm, sorry, their wrist. If you shake the hand like that, it's almost impossible for them to squeeze your hand very hard. That came out horribly wrong. I didn't think about demonstrating that without another hand. So basically, when you've shaken the hand, it's almost like this finger here has gone down that part of the underside of their wrist. And when you shake hands, they can't, I think it's got something to do with how it turns the hand. So they can't squeeze your hand. Try it with a friend. So get a friend when you can, someone at home, someone in your bubble, ask them to shake their hands and just play around with having that finger going down their inside of their wrist and ask them to squeeze, see if they can squeeze. And I think you'll find they can't hurt your hand. That's a bit of a tip if you're getting your hands hurt. All right, some clever things when you shake hands. The V part of your hand has to hit the V part of the other hand. You've got to hit the hands like that. If you don't, you'll get a finger handshake. These are really awkward. We don't like finger handshakes. Right? So you're going for the V of your hand, hitting the V of their hand. Boom. So now it's going to be a firm handshake and the V's have hit. According to the experts, you're supposed to pump the hand a minimum of 3 times and a maximum of 8 times. And I know that sounds ludicrous, doesn't it? But what we don't want you to do is we don't want you to go and just hold hands. That's ridiculous. Don't just hold hands. Don't keep on shaking forever because that's embarrassing as well. So when you shake hands, it's usually a minimum of 3 pumps or a maximum of 8 pumps. And I know that sounds weird, but anywhere between those 2 numbers will be just fine. Things not to do. Please do not offer your hand with your palm face down. This is considered to be an over-the-top handshake. And quite frankly, I'm not going to like you if you come in and try and control it by having the palm of your hand facing down. We would suggest you err on the side of caution and have the palm of your hand slightly up. So, hi, David. Pleased to meet you. Not hi, David. This is wrong. This is right. And when you're shaking that hand, we're going to exchange names. This is where we're going to get their names. Now, if we're going to build our network, a confident person can use the other person's name. So you have to be listening for their name. And it's going to come to you when you're doing the handshake. And that's why it's important that we get the handshake thing right. We would suggest that you repeat their name 3 times. Now, it was going to sound a bit like this. You're going to have to use your imagination just like me. I'm going to meet someone. Let's call him Richard. Let's call him Richard. Okay, then Richard, I'm going to meet Richard, and it would probably look a bit like this for me to get my name out 3 times. Hi, my name's David. Oh, this is awkward to do. I'm missing my other person. Here we go. Hi, my name's David. Hi, David, I'm Richard. Richard, hi, pleased to meet you, Richard. Tell me, Richard, what do you do at YA? So you find a reason to say the names 3 times, and it normally goes a bit like that. Hi, David, you are Richard. Hi, Richard, pleased to meet you. What's your job at YA? So try and get it out 3 times. If you can't get it out 3 times, get it out twice. If you can't get the name out twice, get it out once, but get the name out. Don't do it this way. Hi, my name is David. You are Richard. Richard, Richard, Richard. Go to the counter. Just try and work it into the conversation within the first 5 seconds. Once you've said it 3 times, you've got a much better chance of remembering their name. Something else that you should really know about that handshake. When we meet somebody for the first time, or I don't know if you've noticed this, when you shake hands, you normally take a step. Have you noticed that? So a step, and you shake their hand. The size of that person's step is usually the size of their personal space. Some people have a very large personal space. They don't like people who stand too close to them. Other people have a very small personal space, and they tend to come in a lot closer to other people. So if you get that wrong, if you've got a small personal space and you're getting too close to somebody who's got a big personal space, that's not going to work well for you developing that relationship. So maybe just be mindful when you shake hands. If that person takes a huge step, hi, pleased to meet you, that means they've got a huge personal space. But if they take a very small step, that means you've got a small personal space. You might want to use that to your advantage. Okay, so just with this one, we're talking about having a good handshake that's going to involve a firm but not hard handshake. You're going to have the V's hit the V of their hand, and you're going to probably shake that hand 3 to 8 times. And I know we said that 8 seemed like a long time, but if you remember, by the time I get the name Richard out, and by the time Richard replies to me 3 times, then that's where you get the 8 pump handshake, and it doesn't take long at all. We're going to be careful about not offering our hand palm down. We want it palm up, would be a good thing to do. Let's push that one to one side. What else can we do in a network situation to make us look and feel more confident, like a pro? What does confidence actually look like? Well, in a networking situation, there are several things you can do. First and foremost, make sure you look the part. Try and be well-dressed, not overdressed, well-dressed. The other thing you need to do is have, and this is important, have a very quiet body. Remember at the very start, I said you needed to shake out that nervous energy? That's paramount, because if you don't, you might have what we call a busy body or a noisy body. And that's pretty much what I'm doing now. People who fidget with their hands, constantly shifting the weight from one hip to the other and constantly moving. This does not exude confidence. What we need you to do is have a very confident and quiet body. Of course, you're allowed to move, and we want you to gesture, and we want you to move, but don't be moving in an excessive, fiddly, annoying way. Have a quiet body. It's very important that we see your hands at a networking situation. And I'm pretty sure if I come back, never put your hands behind your back for any extended period of time. We don't trust people, and we don't like people who don't show us their hands. So it's pretty important to have the hands in front of your body. Don't put your hands by your side. There's nothing wrong with having your hands by your side, but if you start moving them, and I can't demonstrate it well enough for you because of the environment we're in. If I start moving my hands down here by my hips, that's going to annoy you if you're trying to have a conversation with me. That's why it's always better to have your hands around your midriff area here. And the easiest way of doing that is just clap your hands together once. Go on, give it a try now. Just clap. Hands are in the best place for you when you're networking to talk to people. In fact, they're in the best place for you to pretty much do anything. If you're going to have your hands somewhere, have them around here. That way, when you use them, they'll be moving in this part of your body. That's what confident people do. When you're not using them, maybe just bring them together. If it's a networking situation, and trust me, this is only water, you've probably got a glass in your hand, you might have a plate of food. Try not to have both. Don't have glass in one hand, food in another hand, trying to eat food and talk to people. You're not, by all means, you're allowed to eat and drink, but for goodness sakes, we didn't go there for dinner. We went there to network. So maybe have a drink in one hand and just keep your hands under control. Don't generally, the rule is if you've got something in your hand, like a glass, that's the hand that stays still. You don't move the hand that's got something in it. You gesture with the other hand. So if I was here with the glass, I'd gesture with this. Yes, I'm just with YA. Yes, why don't you go to the buffet? Something along those lines. And if you want to use this hand, swap the item. That's as simple as that. But don't gesture with or move with whatever it is you've got in your hand. Try not to get caught with anything in your hands. Don't come up with a pen. Don't start talking to somebody with a pen. If you've got something in your hands, you're going to fiddle with it. And we're not going to like people. We're not going to like you. We don't like people who fiddle. Even if you put your fingers in your hand, you'll start doing weird stuff. You'll find jewelry. You'll start cracking knuckles, and that's a horrible one. So please be mindful of what you're doing with your hands. Try this trick, team. Try this one. And you can do this while you're sitting down. Put your hands up like me, fingertips together like this. Now you're doing the most powerful thing with your hands. It's called steepling. And you'll see most world leaders, our own Jacinda does it, President of the United States does it, most world leaders at some stage when they're talking to people, especially through the press, they'll get their hands in this sort of position. Be careful if you're nervous at all for any reason, you're trying to do this steepling, that could come across pretty badly because you'll do CPR on your own hand. You'll start doing all sorts of fiddly fingery things with your fingers. Watch out for those. You'll start playing with jewelry. So practice it. Don't do it all the time. You'll look weird. Hello, my name's David. I'm with my love to see you. Greetings. Richard, good to see you again. No. Don't do it all the time. Be careful if you push your hands together like this. This is a totally different meaning. This is begging or pleading. And that's a clever thing for you to do if that's what you're trying to get across with your hands. Keep your hands away from your face, please. Nervous people touch their face too much, and we don't like people who touch their face too often. Right, here's some interesting statistics on your face. If you're sitting at home right now listening to me, and there's no one else in the room, you'll probably touch your face on average 20 times an hour. 20 times an hour. Once we get you into a networking situation, that should drop down to about 5 times an hour. You'll occasionally touch your face, but it will come down to about 5 times an hour. When you get nervous, that goes right up to about 40 times an hour. And that becomes one of those situations where I can't explain it, but I don't like the person from YA. It's, you know, those situations where I can't put my finger on it, but I don't trust the guy. That's one of the reasons why you won't trust somebody. They're touching their face too much, they're messing around with their hands too much, or they're hiding their hands. So that's why it's very important that when we network, that we actually use our hands and use them very well. And just while we're on the subject of hands, when you gesture with your palms down, that's telling. When you gesture with your palms up, you're asking. So I could say, look, please consider coming to the YA networking event next month. I'm asking you to. Or I could say, please come to the YA networking event next month. I'm sort of like telling you. So this is telling, this is asking. That's why you'd probably never do this. Next month's networking event, you coming? What do you say when you greet people? You've done the name 3 times. How do you promote that conversation? Well, could you please have a think about this before you walk into the room? Please walk in with something to say. I think we all know that most people will talk about 2 major things, the weather and sport. Didn't the All Blacks do well? Oh, isn't it raining all the time? Right, they're a given one, but let's see if we can't be a little bit more. After all, we are the young associates, we are the young professionals. Listen to the news on the way in. What's topical? And obviously right now, lockdown's topical. There are events happening around the world that are topical. And I've got to caution you on that. When you start meeting people in a networking situation, I'd ask you to be very considerate and try to avoid certain topics in that initial meeting. Those initial topics are called core topics or core belief systems. And there are 4 core belief systems: sex, religion, politics, and culture. What is a core belief? A core belief is a belief system that people are prepared to die for. And on our planet, every day, thousands of people are put to death for their belief in one of these 4 systems: sex, religion, politics, and culture. People are very sensitive to those subjects. And if you're meeting someone for the first time or networking, I would consider that it would be probably inappropriate for you to mention anything, even though that those things might be transpiring in the world as we speak. They always will be, and they always have been. So a word of advice: watch out for those. What can you talk about then? Well, the best thing you can talk about is getting them to talk. Anytime somebody asks you a question, if they so where are you from? By all means, tell them where you're from, but then you should turn around immediately and say, what about yourself? Where are you from? If they ask you where you work, by all means, tell them where you work. Don't tell them to say, look, I work at Talk Limited. No, tell them what you do. Oh, I help people with their presentation skills and their confidence. Tell them not what the title is, but what you actually do. That's of greater interest. And then straight away, and what about yourself? What do you do? If somebody ever asks you a question, it usually means they want that question asked of them. So if somebody later in the presentation says, do you have any pets? Yes, I have a pet. I do have a pet dog. His name is Oscar. They want you to say, what about you? Do you have a pet? Oh, I'm glad you asked. Yes, I do. I have several pets. So if somebody asks you a question, they usually want that question asked back of them. The best conversations you will ever have is where you say the least. If you can get them talking more than you, they're going to love you for it. Look, have a guess and type it in the chat box if you want. It's only a number. What percentage of your awake time, what percentage of your day that you're awake, do you think you are thinking about yourself? So how often are you thinking about you? So from the time you wake up till the time you go to sleep, what percentage? I can't see anything anywhere because that's okay. Melanie will tell me afterwards, or I'll get a chance to see them afterwards. But I get some really weird answers. The correct answer, 95%. 95% of the time you're thinking about you. And I can imagine some of you are saying, no, David, no, it's much higher than that. I wonder if somebody did put something higher than 95. But what have you been doing for the last 40 minutes since I've been talking? Haven't you been thinking, do you diaphragmatically breathe? Do you get nervous when you get in front of people? How do you shake your hands? What size is your personal space? Are you going to practice your breathing in the shower? You've been thinking about yourself all the time, and that's perfectly natural. And that's why it's so important when we meet other people that if we get them to talk about themselves, if we get to use their name, Richard, so what sort of dogs do you have, Richard? If you get them to talk about their interests, they're going to really like you. I like that person from YA. They're lovely. They're wonderful people. And that's what it's all about, making sure that we can actually get those people to like us. Watch out for your eye contact. When we're talking to someone, it's always polite to look at them. How long can you look at someone before it becomes weird? About 7 seconds. So when you're talking to someone, don't be surprised if occasionally you did something like that. Look down, look up. Well, I don't know. What is the name of my dog? That's right, Oscar. It's very rare in life that you have sustained eye contact with an individual. So don't try and keep that eye contact non-stop throughout the conversation. It's quite okay for you to glance blink your eyes. If you don't, they will anyway. I'm pretty sure it wouldn't get weird on you. But one of the things with the eye contact, if I am talking to you and I'm talking to you, but all of a sudden I start looking around the room, because surely there's something better happening than talking to you. That's a height of rudeness, so please be careful. If you have to excuse yourself, just excuse yourself. It's been wonderful meeting with you. I'm going to go around and meet some other people, so hopefully we can catch up again later. Excuse yourself. You're not honor bound to stay there. So make the most of that networking situation. We don't like people that linger with us too long. So don't be one of those people who, oh, you'll talk to me, I'll stay with you. You've got to be brave and move around. The last thing about you is your feet. And again, I can't demonstrate this for you. But have you ever noticed when you go into a networking situation, you might have two people talking to one another. And you think, oh, can I go and join those two people? How do I join in a conversation? Well, it's all to do with your feet. So congratulations, these are my feet. If my feet are pointing straight towards the other person's feet, then we don't want you coming in. So if my body is facing the other person's body and our feet are facing each other, we don't want anyone coming in. But if my feet were angled out this way and the other person's feet were angled out a little bit, then that means we're open to someone joining us. So I challenge you, the next time you go to a networking, have a look at people's feet. Don't be weird, don't do it too badly, but you're looking at their feet. And if their feet are pointing directly at each other, we're not going to interrupt them. But if their feet are pointing apart at an angle, then go for it. Just walk in and introduce yourself. Make sure your hands are high. My name's David. Pleased to meet you. And do it that way. And I think that's probably about as much as we've got. If I can just recap that. If we're going to have these professional networking situations, we've got to look and sound confident, which means, apart from all the confidence thing we did before we walked into the room, we're going to walk into the room, make eye contact and smile and nod, and that's where we'll probably end up going. We're going to have a really good handshake, and we've discussed what makes a good handshake. We're going to try and remember that person's name, and we're going to try and remember it by getting it out 3 times, if not 3 times, then twice, if not twice, then once. And don't forget, at some stage, you'll probably do the business card thing. Book, there you go, thank you very much. And do the business card, and that's going to, oh, and read their card. Don't just take their card, no, it's not. Have a look, oh, and make some comment about where they work, who they are, the position they hold. That's it's if they're thinking about themselves 95% of the time, then that's exactly what they want. So make sure that you do that. Be careful of the eyes. Make sure you've got good eye contact and don't have wandering eyes. And make sure you've got something appropriate to say. And when I say appropriate, not just the weather and sport, although sport would be good given the fact that the Olympics has just finished. Obviously, the lockdown is a topic that you would discuss. How are you coping with lockdown? But then again, how come you're networking if you're in lockdown? No, forget that. That makes no sense whatsoever. But you can talk about, well, last month, how did you cope with the lockdown? That one you could do. But you're going to stay away from sex, religion, politics, and culture. Stay away from those. Stay away from profanity. Don't watch your language. Make sure it's always professional. And just be yourself. Be yourself. If you do those things, you'll probably find that most people like you because you make them feel good about themselves. And if that's the case, that means your network just got bigger. And of the 80,000 people that you're going to meet in your lifetime, you can put a big tick next to that one. So hopefully there are some tricks and tips in there that's going to help you the next time you're out doing a networking event. I believe you might have one coming up in the next 1 or 2 months with the YA. Can I ask you to consciously take some of these skills, play with them, have fun amongst the YA with them, and start making them part of your everyday professional mannerisms. And I think you'll enjoy a very healthy and prosperous network. If anyone has any questions, I'd be more than happy to take any. I believe, Sonia, you're going to be our question master.
Yes, thank you so much for your presentation, David. That was amazing. It was very insightful. I feel like I should have done a power pose before coming in for the webinar, but even the little tips about the business cards were super helpful. We did get a couple of percentages in the chat. We got a 90, 95, and an 80. So someone got 95, bang on. This does bring us to our question and answer segment. So I'll now pass over to Sonia, who will be our question master for this segment.
Thanks, Melanie.
Thanks, Melanie, and thank you again, David. That was really interesting. I definitely had never thought about the palm up, palm down before, so great tip for me. We've got a few questions, which is really good. So our first one that we've got is, aside from the generic conversation starters, do you have any go-tos for when you're trying to enter into a circle that's formed at a networking event? Is there anything that you just classically drop back to say, oh, hi, conversation starter?
Yes, normally I do, and thank you very much for the question. I normally would start by, if it was more than, it doesn't matter if it was 2 or 3 or 4 people, I'd enter into the conversation and say, hi, my name's David. What brings us all here today? Because I want them to start talking. I don't want to say, hi, my name's David. And you're, oh, Richard. Yes, Richard. Sam, yes, Sam. So it's, hi, my name's David. What brings us all here today? Just anything, but be open, be friendly, and be confident.
Cool. That's a good tip. Another question that we've had is kind of speaking to the confidence piece that you just mentioned. Have there been any breakthrough moments in your own personal journey of learning how to be more confident that stand out to you that you could share?
Yes, excellent point. It's really strange, isn't it? We have to be empowered. So a breakthrough moment for me, and I don't know exactly when it happened, but I realized that if I was at an event and I played any sort of role, I don't care what any sort of role, I could be the person at the front desk checking the names in, I could be the person that's going to be the MC, I might be the person taking your coat and hanging it up, whatever. I'm the meter and the greeter. Anytime you are empowered with the role, it gives you masses of confidence and an authority to be there. And it's really quite amazing. So perhaps if there was a situation where you wanted to make sure that you empowered yourself, give yourself a role at that networking opportunity. You might be the person who's been assigned to go around and make sure everyone knows where the amenities are. So that way, that empowers you to go up to a group and say, hi, team, just letting you know, if anyone needs the men's or the ladies or the gents, they're just over there. Or whatever. But adopt a role, ask to be the person to tick people's names off as they come through the door, or the official meter and greeter. So you just stand by the door as people come in. Hi, welcome. Hi, my name's Dave. Pleased to meet you. Yeah, please come in. And just super confidence because you're justified, you have a right, you have a job to do. It's really quite amazing.
Cool. Another question that we've received is, what do you think of Donald Trump's handshake?
Yes. Let's never talk about sex, religion, politics, or culture. But having said that, I'm not a big fan of Mr. Trump. And I would, if he ever asked anything of me, I would politely decline. The examples I've seen of him and the way he conducts himself is not what I would suggest would be a role model for anyone with any integrity to follow. So if you want to know what not to do, by all means, watch him. But pretty much everything else, no. So his handshakes are shocking. I've seen him literally grab someone and literally pull that person. Horrid. But he's also a great one for man-spreading, which is pretty gross. He's huge on this one, but let's leave him as former president.
Yeah. Our next question is, could you elaborate on the personal space point that you mentioned earlier? For example, if the person is moving closer with a big step in, for a handshake, should you as the other person in the interaction take the corresponding distance, or do you have any further detail on that?
The only, thank you, good question. The only thing I would say about that is there's no time to work out, well, that's a big footstep, I'll take a big one myself. It's all over by the time you even recognize it. I think just knowing it, so, well, that was a big, he's reached really far in, which means I shouldn't get too close to this man or woman. Rather. But if someone barely moves, if somebody just, doesn't even move their feet, says, hi, Dave, then I know that they've got a small personal space, and then I can come in a bit closer. And just so you know, your personal space is not a circle around your body. Think of an egg shape, more like an egg shape, and it starts at your back, right up hard against your back, and comes out like that. That's how your personal space works. That's why you can get into a lift in a building and you have no problems whatsoever with just backing up to the people in that lift. Doesn't bother you at all. And it also means you can go to a picture theatre and sit in a dark room amongst strangers that you don't know, because they're not in your personal space and you're not in theirs.
Our next question is kind of anecdotal. So sometimes when I enter a room for networking, it seems like everyone is already wrapped up in a conversation and know each other already. How do I pick a friendly group or break into one, or do I just go gung-ho and go for it?
Gung-ho sounds pretty good. But no, that's where I walk in. That's right. Look at a group, and maybe there's a group of 3 people over there. Someone makes eye contact with you, then it'll be the smile and the nod. And if they smile and nod back, I'm going to go over and do that. Hi, so my name's David. What brings you here? I mean, what's the worst that can happen? I'll say, so this is a private conversation. No, they're never going to say that. Right? So remember, if you go in there and you're doing all the things, you look like you want to be there, you've got a good look on your face, and they're doing most of the talking, then I think you're going to find it a lot easier.
Cool. The next question, I'll combine 2 of the questions that we've got. So the first is, what do we do if the other person that we're speaking with isn't maintaining the conversation? And the second question is, how do you leave a conversation at a networking event in a polite way?
Yes, in a polite way. If the other person is disengaged, then you'll know that, because their eyes won't be looking at you. They're the ones that are looking for something else in the room. So, I mean, who knows? First and foremost, I'd suggest don't judge the other person, because I don't like it when I get judged. So I try not to judge other people. Although if I was talking to someone and they were looking everywhere else, I would feel a bit snubbed. However, I don't know, maybe they're looking for somebody that they're supposed to be meeting. Maybe they've had a really bad day. Who knows? So let's not be too quick to judge. Having said that, if they're doing that, then I would excuse myself from them. Look, I've just got to catch up with some other people. So great to meet you, and enjoy the evening. Maybe practice it amongst the YA. Get together with someone and practice saying them. Don't just say, oh yeah, that'd be a good thing to say. Unless you practice saying it and practice doing it, you might find it's quite difficult. And for the ladies, not so much for the gentlemen, I know a lot of ladies will say, well, I'm just going to go and powder my nose. But so many times the other lady will say, oh, come with you. And you think, that was trying to leave. But men never do that. I never say, I'm going to go powder my nose, and I'll come with you. No, you're not. So I would not use the old powder my nose one to get away.
I know another.
Yeah.
I know another classic one is, oh, I'm just going to go get another drink. Do you suggest that one?
It's not bad if it does, but it almost, I'm going to get another drink and I'll be right back. But we don't want to be right back. We want to go. Yeah. So that's why I like, hey, look, it's been great chatting. I'm just going to head off and catch up with a couple of other people. Enjoy the rest of the event. Cool. I don't think there's anything wrong with it.
Cool. We've got 2 more questions because we're running out of time. So our second to last question is socializing and networking is quite scary or seems like a big challenge for introverts. Is there anything else that you could speak on that to make it a bit less daunting?
Well, for introverts, and all the things we've suggested should help you. A safety net is to go with someone. You'll find it a lot easier if you are with someone. So there's nothing wrong with the 2 of us. Hi, I'm David, and this is my colleague Richard. We're from X, Y, and Z. So what brings you here tonight? So if you're an introvert, go with somebody. I think you'll find and build up your confidence and experience that way. And even if it's only just to break in, and then once you get them talking about themselves, then I think you'll find that if your colleague goes off to get a drink or whatever, that you might have a bit more success. So that would be the only thing I would suggest for our friends who are considerably introverted.
Our final question is, sometimes some people still don't feel particularly confident speaking. Is it rude or impolite to stand by and not talk so much and just listen, or how is that perceived in a networking setting?
It's not perceived badly. In fact, it just adds, if someone's talking and you are listening to them, that just flatters them. That's a compliment to them, and they will like you. The less you say, the more the other person will like you, because obviously they're talking about themselves. It would be important though that you do smile and nod if they say something. Repeating back a word they say, they've just come back from the Nile. So, the Nile. For you, repeating a word or nodding or using your face would be a clever thing to do. Doing things like looking at your clock, or is there any more food? Drink. These things are probably bad.
Yeah.
So looking like you're engaged, paying attention would be a clever thing. And I think you'll find that they'll bring you into the conversation. So what do you think? And that's exactly what you want.
Cool. I think that active listening or repeating back is a really good point to leave on. It's all the time we've got for questions now, so I'll hand back to Melanie now. Thanks, David.
Thank you very much. Thanks, Tony.
Amazing. Thank you so much. That's perfect timing as well. We'd like to thank David, who took time out of his day to attend this event. If you want to be in the loop and the first to know of any of our next events, such as the networking event that David mentioned, follow us on LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, and WeChat. And you can also sign up to our Patreon for less than $3 US a month. Thank you all for coming today. Stay safe and kia kaha.